Hello, my good students. You are welcome to Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. It's my pleasure being with you this day. This is your government teacher. I'm going to take you for a discussion on a very interesting topic. Please join me in the discussion.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
This topic, constitutional developments in Nigeria, is a very interesting one. But at the end of the topic, let us see what are the areas we are going to achieve as learning objectives. Number one, we will be able to highlight the features of Nigeria Constitution or Nigeria Council of Law Lugard of 1914. Secondly, we look at the features of Federal Constitution of 1922. After which, we are going to list and explain features of Sir Otto Richards' Constitution of 1946. As part of our objectives, we will be able to outline features of Sir John Macpherson Constitution of 1951. Number 5, we will be able to enumerate the features of Sir Littleton Constitution of 1954. All this within the period. Let's see how far we can be able to achieve this. Beginning from Law Lugard Council, the Nigeria Council of 1914. Let us go back to a little to the memory lane of how this came to be. At the classroom situation or conditions, you must have been told that immediately after Nigeria colonization began, Law Lugard was sent to Nigeria to govern as a member of the British colonial administrative officers. And when he arrived in Nigeria, the way the Nigeria system was structured was such a way that he needed to perfect his own method of administration. That is why Lugard brought in a constitution, which to a lot of people was not really like other ones that were drawn. But because it was an idea of the man alone, it was tagged Nigeria Council. That's why Nigeria Council, in quote, came to be. What are the features of this system or Council of Law Lugard? It established what we could call a composition of 36 members. In these members, Law Lugard as the head, included 6 Nigerians and 30 British officials. Who are the 3 Nigerians? The Oba of Lagos, 2 emirs from the north, the ruler, the leader of Calabar and Barons, Benin Wari areas. These are the people that were there in the council. He was there as the head to legislate and make law for the whole of Nigeria. As at that time, Nigeria headquarters was in Lagos. Nigeria capital was in Lagos, and Law Lugard was in Lagos, ruling the entire areas of Nigeria, be it north and south. Advisory role, precisely. That was the way to label this council. It was only to give advice to Law Lugard. It could not legislate by itself, and Lugard was the head of government. Composition, it's the one I told you earlier. The limited powers. No legislative powers were given to the council. The final powers was not given to the council. Exclusion of northern Nigeria, yes. The council did not include representatives from the north. It was focused on the south. Yes, precisely. Because Lagos was the capital, Law Lugard office was in Lagos. He was ruling the whole of Nigeria, and by proclamation, covering the whole of the south. Election of African members, yes. The constitution provided for election of African members to the council. Only 4 members were elected. 1 from Lagos, 3 from Lagos, 1 from Calabar, as at that period of time. Which means there was no constitutional provision that would give room for constitution to be made like a good established Legislative Council. Therefore, it was not a complete, what you can term as a constitutional draft as at that period of time. Let's look at Clifford Constitution. This Constitution of 1922 marked a shift towards more inclusive governance by introducing elections as part of the Legislative Council. However, it still maintains significant control under the colonial administration with limited representation for Nigerians. Clifford Constitution was a significant milestone in Nigeria's colonial history with the following features. Why has it been one of the constitutions that we are talking about today? Because of significance. And most importantly, number one, elective principle. For the first time, Clifford looked at what could be done. People have been, agitating that they were not part of the system. Nigerians, especially those who went abroad to study, when they came back, they saw what was going on there, especially in so all countries of Europe and as well as Great Britain. So he looked at their agitation, which was, let us be part of the system. Let there be elections to bring the people on the affairs of governance. Therefore, he introduced the elective principle, the first time in Nigeria, which allowed to have from Lagos 3 representatives who will be elected, 1 from Calabar. Then this council was expanded from 36. The one of 36 under Lord Lugard was expanded to have 10 more to give 46 members, including both official and unofficial members. The governor had power to still make law for the North by proclamation, while Lagos will still remain the headquarters of the white governor. Political activities was encouraged in that constitution, and political parties were formed. The first political party that was formed was by Abat Macaulay, named Nigerian National Democratic Party in 1923. This party was able to bring representatives from Lagos for the period of 10 years, 1923 to 1933, before we had another party, Nigerian Youth Movement. Limited representation was what we saw, or what was on ground as at that time, with most of the power concentrated in the hands of the colonial administration. You can see an agitation came from people again that did not want this form of a constitution. And immediately, Clifford was referred back to Britain. Another governor came to Nigeria. Who was that? Arthur Richard. Arthur Richard came to Nigeria at about 1939. So he looked at ways to design a constitution that would promote unity and provide diverse a unification of that diverse population of our country, Nigeria. So what did he do? He introduced regionalism and increased African participation in governance. He had to increase the number of people who were to join him in the control of the affairs of a territory called Nigeria. So what about the features? Number one, regionalization. Like we said, Arthur Richard divided Nigeria into 3, northern, eastern, and western regions. Lagos was still maintained as the colony of the Nigeria as an entity. The Legislative Council was established by having now a central Legislative Council for the entire country to include people from different regions. An election will be conducted as that of 1922 as laid down by Clifford. Regional legislatures, each region had its own assembly, allowing for regional governance. Increased African participation, like I told you, membership of the council was increased. Then indirect representation. There was to be people, representatives from different regions, the north, the west, and the east. And there will be an assembly that will be called Central Legislative Council. Like today we have people from different states voted to assemble in Abuja in the 2 houses of lawmaking. So it was a picture of what was practiced then. It has started since 1946 when Arthur Richard became the governor of Nigeria. And traditional rulers were still recognized in the governance. However, like Oliver Twist, our people, Nigerians, still agitated that this is not what we wanted, or what they wanted. Let us have another form of a constitution. Until 1951, when John Macpherson was sent to Nigeria that another constitution was drafted. What was unique about Mafas's constitution? He went to the nooks and corners of Nigeria, all areas of provinces, districts, and villages. What did you want? And he made this as a yardstick, the basis for drawing his own constitution. What are the features? Central Legislative Council, this was increased, that of Lagos, constituting 148 members. The North had 68, West and East each had 34. Additionally, 6 members were appointed by the governor to represent unrepresented minorities, and 6 were ex-officio members. Unrepresented minorities in terms of the people from other areas who are not Yorubas, Igbos, or Hausas. They needed to be given representation more than before. Then the Central Executive Council was created. This was a council of ministers, like you have today, the president and ministers working under him, as well as advisors. Then we have regional legislatures. Each of these regions has its own assembly, unlike before, under 1922, under 1946. We now have each of them having their own legislative houses with bicameral legislature in the north and west. Also, Mafas's constitution restructured what he meant on ground as far as 1946 by making sure that each region has its own bicameral legislature, especially the north and the west. As at that time, it has not begin from the eastern region. It did not begin from eastern region, and this did not go down well in the heart of the people of that time. So what were we saying? The north had House of Assembly and House of Chiefs. The west had House of Assembly and the House of Chiefs. Only eastern region did not have as at that time. So lastly, we had increase in Nigerian participation. This one, it made for involvement of legislative process in such a way that elected representatives from both central and regional areas were really, put in place. It was almost a perfect structure, but it was not perfect because agitation still came that did not like what Mafasen did, and this made for another governor to come to Nigeria in person of John Littleton. Littleton came to Nigeria, and this man, so to say, has been tagged as that person that brought true federalism in such a way that powers were shared between the center and the component units, the regions. It has started since that time. What were those things Littleton did as significant steps in Nigeria's journey towards independence? Number one, like I told you, federal system. The Constitution formally established a federal system that divided Nigeria into 3, the north, the west, and the east. Don't forget, when we started, we talked about Lugard, that we had only north and south. After Clifford, we had a division of south into east and west. But now we are talking about the 3 of them put together so that Nigeria will become a federal state, northern, western, and eastern parts of the country. Then there was regional autonomy. Each region had its own government and was granted regional autonomy, including the power to legislate on certain matters. Yes. No more, it was not only the center that will now have power to legislate. Each of the regions will have power to make laws in their own ways. Then, bicameral legislature, we talked about 1951, where we said North had House of Chiefs and House of Assembly. The West, likewise, had similarly the same thing of House of Assembly and House of Chiefs. Why we have the East having unicameral legislature, this was still maintained. As at that time, the eastern part of the country did not have the 2 houses or the second house still as at that period of time. Later, you get to know more on how their own came to be. We have Central Legislative Council as we had in 1951, but this was expanded, though with direct elections that was introduced later. Then, regional premiers. Yes, this is the constitution provided for regional premiership. What does that mean? As governor at the center, the regions will have what we could call premiers of that time, the first leader. Unlike what we have now, you talk about the president and having governors in the 36 states. It has started since that time anyway. That was a form of example of what you can see to understand it. So what are we saying? The regional premiers were like governors of today. They were heirs of the government of the regions, while Lee sitting as governor was in Lagos as head of state. Public service regionalization, yes, the public service was regionalized. Both the ministries, departments, and government agencies that were in Lagos, these were allowed to be created also in the regions. And finally, the governor of Nigeria at that time, as named or labeled, became a governor general. And this was what we experienced till we had independence in 1960. So Nigeria became known, the governor became known as governor general, while the lieutenant governors in the regions, were now designated as governors.
Acing your WAEC and NECO examinations has been made easy by the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education with the Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO Candidates television program. Join seasoned teachers as they take you through these core subjects, targeting the exact syllabus of WAEC and NECO. Watch Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates through these social media platforms to access more educational content and give their feedback. Eko Learners Support for WAEC and NECO candidates. Pass your examinations with flying colors.
Eko Learners Support, a support program of the Lagos State Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education for WAEC and NECO candidates.
My good students, I believe from what we have discussed today, you must have learned one or two things beyond what you already knew in your classrooms. Therefore, let's look at this for practice. These revision questions, number 1A, you can see is part of what has been from past questions of WAEC. List 3 pre-independent constitutions in Nigeria. Number 2, outline 3 features of McPherson Constitution of 1951. From the first question, we are to list 3 pre-independent constitutions in Nigeria. From what we have learned today, if you write any of these, you are right, you are correct. Nigeria Council of 1914, Clifford Constitution of 1922, Literature Constitution of 1954. The second question, we are to outline 3 features of McPherson Constitution. This came out in 2014, WAEC. This is one of, the way you can answer the question, even though this is inexhaustible. You can get to know, to write more if you have to write 5 or 6, depending on how the question is framed. Therefore, let's look at the probable answer to the question. Central Legislative Council, as we have itemized while we were discussing it, 3 features. The second one, Central Executive Council, you need to discuss, if you have to discuss, at least 1 or 2 lines to be able to tell the examiner that you know what you have to do. Finally, regional legislatures, that the regions became, started to have their own legislative houses. House of Assembly, House of Chiefs in the West, House of Assembly, House of Chiefs in the North, while East still had a in-camera legislature, 1 House of Assembly. My good students, I want to believe from this discussion, we have had a good day. If you have any question, suggestion, or remarks that you want to send to us, feel free. Send it to any of our social media handles as displayed on the screen.
Thank you.